Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel if you're returning. If you're new here, my name is Tori and I have a little something different. I had a couple, and by a couple I mean a couple, all two of you asked to see more about my kind of like reading life, and so I figured I would talk a little bit about how I use my reading journal. I have done a little bit of that in the past, but I figured why not dedicate a specific video to that, and then I can branch out from there. I'm thinking there's a couple things I want to add into my channel here that is not just like explicitly plan with me's, and I'm thinking like a quarterly check-in about the books that I'm reading and what I've enjoyed would be a cool thing to add in. So like at the end of March, go through all the books up until that point that I have read and enjoyed and would recommend. I think for a general rule, when it comes to content and art that I consume as a consumer, I don't really discuss stuff I don't like. I just don't think there's a point. If I don't like it, why would I make videos on why I don't like it? I don't know. It's very off-putting to me when I see videos like that, because I think there's enough in the world that we don't need to add to it, you know? Like, we don't need to add to those bad energy vibes. They come on their own. They're quite powerful. We don't need to give them help, essentially. So if you see a book somewhere in my reading journal, and I can actually add in my reading section and my rings, so I'll do that. But well, what I can do is just introduce all three of the reading sections in my planners. But so what I'm trying to say is, if you see a book cover or a book title in my reading sections and you're like, okay, she read that but she's not talking about it, it's probably because like I don't have much to say. This is a long-winded way of saying I'm just not going to talk about stuff I didn't enjoy, because that's annoying to me. Okay, so I think the smallest section for reading is in my hon, because I really do use this as like a journal and a memory keeper planning situation. But I do have one spread in here from the monthlies that go into the next year's months that I just like don't use. So I made this book of the month spread, and I haven't decided if I'm just going to put the titles in or if I'm going to like write in some explanations as to why I chose it. But so far I haven't been moved to add any explanations, but I feel like later me would want to know, if that makes sense. So I may come back in, because I will forget why I liked them. I mean, not why I liked them, but I'll forget why they were likable in the year in which I liked them, if that makes any kind of sense. So that is all that I really do in this planner for books. Now, these two are the workhorses of my reading life. This section you've seen in my flips. This is my reading section that I have in my personal rings, and it's kind of like, this is my wallet and it's my emotional comfort reading section, okay? Or not my emotional comfort, my emotional support reading section is what I meant to say. So I just have a sticker here. It looks like it is from Citizen Ruth Brand, and I actually picked this up at a bookstore in Chattanooga, right? Was it in Chattanooga? I think so. Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm like, no, well, no. 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 It was in a bookstore in Kansas, of all places. Wichita, Kansas. We went to a bookstore in Wichita for, because we were there for a library conference, and I saw this, and I was like, gotta have that. So I bought it. This is a bookmark from Lemuria Books, and it was established in the 70s, and it's like a pretty notable bookstore in Jackson, Mississippi. If you're ever in the area, you should definitely go. It's gorgeous, and it's fun, and the children's area is delightful, and it's got green carpet everywhere. So, this is the reading log insert that I'm using from Annalita's, bless me, can I speak, Annalita Designs. So, if you want to see what that is the, that's the name right there. And I'm just putting in, like, the date ranges of when I started and when I finished, and page numbers, or AB for audiobook. And I've kind of like already started renumbering these because they go to 15 on each one, but I want to continue the logging. So I also like a visual representation. This is essentially what I just showed you, but with book covers. I really like seeing it that way. I find it very satisfying. So I have that. And then these, so if you're fairly new to my channel, or I don't think I've explained why I use this insert in a while, but I work as a librarian, and there are certain perks, right? So like my mom calls it, the mouse making the cheese, because I love books. I love to collect books. I love to read books. So I'm like right in the middle of the danger zone in my workspace. So what I do is anytime I pick up a library book to read, I put it in this log so that I know, like, hey, if you brought that book home, you didn't check it out, or, you know, you need to make sure that you get it back in a timely manner. Doesn't always work that way for me, because that is part of the perks too, is like, hey, has anybody seen this book? Yeah, I have it at home, I'll bring it back. So I would not say that is a good practice. I am not sitting here saying that is something you can do at every library. Our director she's really chill about that kind of stuff. So, yeah, some of these I actually do have on my account, like these 3 right here. I do have them on my account as checked out. And then some are just like, I am the children's librarian, so I will take a book with me to read it really quick and then put it back on the shelf once I'm done, if it's like a newer book, so I can see what's coming out in publishing and what's going to be popular in case somebody asks me about it. So it's a little like mixed bag of everything that I am picking up that is either professional development books that we keep in the library. So we have a library within our library, essentially, of like professional development books for our staff to read. So like homeschooling in libraries, the Book Talkers Bible, servant leadership, stuff like that, that I just write down because I want to remember that I have it here at home and I need to read it because it's not mine. So that's how I utilize these inserts from Plan with B. And it really, I like having it on me specifically so that if somebody does ask me a question about a book, I can look really quickly to tell them, like, hey, I do have that. So, and then of course we have our fan art. And then these are some of the first book inserts that I found that I really liked filling out. And so I really like this insert, and I like that you can fill out the bar. Like, I don't know, it's like a cozy little my first love kind of thing. I will still probably print some more of these off, but I'm really leaning into these book reviews for now. These actually are helping me remember, like, books I have wanted to read for a hot minute and I haven't gotten to. And they kind of like, they're placeholders, TBR, I guess. Though I really admire people who can have a stack of books in front of them and be like, okay, I'm going to read this one next, and then this one and this one. Because I am a mood reader, but I fight against that every day of my life. I'm fighting for my life out here. And I don't know why I do that. Like, I don't know why I can't have fun. And I do have fun, don't get me wrong. But, like, if my mood, and that's also another thing, like, I'm so wishy-washy with what I want to read in any given moment. It's like I can't trust the mood that I was in to read this one book in 1 minute, because then I, like, move on from it and I want to read something else. So I don't like following, like, my mood for reading, even though technically that's what I am. I am a mood reader. And a mood reader is just somebody who reads what they're in the mood for, right? They don't have, like, a list of TBRs to be read, which they just go by their spirit, I guess, is what my understanding of a mood reader is. I am saying that internally, yes, I am there. Externally, I make myself read things I don't want to read, and then I enjoy them anyways, and then we move on. I'm not saying it's logical. This is my life. So this I found on Pinterest, and then I just have some related stickers from an Amazon sticker pack that I thought were, appropriate for the artwork that is on the back of. So yeah, and then we move into the Annalita Designs inserts that have, like, different kinds of formats for different kinds of book reviews and all that. And I've written all of these out, and I will kind of go in and talk about these because I want to wait, like, I think an extensive and thorough look at the books that I'm reading and, like, sharing with you all about them, I think that, in my opinion, deserves, like, its own video. Like, I'm already kind of thinking I'll just put some commonplacing footage in the background and kind of talk over that, or catch up in my planners, whatever I need to do that I don't normally film. And then just kind of tell you about all the books that I've read that I've enjoyed for January through March. But for now, that's just kind of where I'm at, and I'm not done with, obviously, reading in March. So that is where, and I will refer back to these, but yeah, I just don't want to spend a lot of time in this particular video talking about, like, one specific book, if that makes sense. I don't know that it does. But so this is kind of like more of like how I approach reading in my book life in my planners, I guess. That would be a very long title if that's what I called it. So I'll figure out a better title. And then I just have more of these book review inserts in here, and then more fan art. And then I have the Throne of Glass reading guide. And these are my 2024 reading challenges. I'm very competitive with myself, and so, like, I like a good challenge. I don't know. So these are just different things that different companies or different organizations that I follow on the internet or know about have put out as, like, reading challenges you can follow and tackle with them. And in addition, I have some series that I wanted to read in 2023 that I never got to, and I'm tired of looking at them, so I want to read them. Like, some I have read. Like, I've read this series, but I want to reread it because of the prequel series, or the sequel series with Prisoner's Throne and everything. Like, I want to reread the whole thing so I have it fresh in my mind, ready to go for reading the next series. Beartown, I've read the first two. I need to read the third one, but I want to read the first two again so that I can have everything in my head fresh and ready. Same with All Souls. Read 1 and 2. I have a thing. Okay. So I understand how goofy I sound when I try to explain these things to people, but, like, it's kind of, again, the same neurodiverse, sticky land. Like, if we're in Inside Out, if you've seen that movie, where she has, like, all the little islands, this is, like, the silly goose, no nonsense, like, no, we're not going to make sense here island of my brain, because I will read the first couple in a series, and I'm sure this is going to really get on somebody's nerves, and I'm so sorry. I understand my problematic behaviors. I know my flaws, but I have not found the power to change them. I read like the first two in a series and then I'll stop because I like it. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I do that. So like All Souls trilogy, I loved Deborah Harkness's writing in that. Like, it's so atmospheric, it's so engaging, it's so, I mean, the characters are okay, but like, I'm there for her descriptions. Like, she is a great world builder. I liked the first two, so I was like, I don't want to be finished with the series, because if I'm finished with it, I'll be sad. So I'm just out here not reading the last one of the series, and I haven't read Times Convert either. Why do I do that? That is so unhinged. I don't know. But it happens with multiple series. Like Folk of the Air, I have been putting off rereading it because that is 100% my favorite series. My favorite book is The Cruel Prince. If I have to whittle it down to one, which I hate doing, which I've said in the past. But my favorite author is Holly Black because I like her writing style. I like her sense of humor. She doesn't take herself too seriously when she writes about serious topics. And she makes some pretty kick-ass characters. And the characters are generally unapologetic for who they are. And I really like that in a character. And I essentially found Holly Black when Spiderwick Chronicles came out as a kid. So I feel like Holly Black is my fairy godmother. So she's like 10 out of 10. I will stand her forever. Which is why, like, all of this emotion behind it, I don't want to reread it and then, like, find something I'm disappointed in, right? I just don't want to feel that feeling. And I'm going to very extra hard lengths to avoid an emotion. I'm sure a therapist somewhere will have something to say about that. So, I am following, like, our state library commission has a book challenge that they do every year. So, there's a few that I've knocked out of that. And I'm not as strict as, like, every single one has to be a different book. I'm doubling up. We're gonna double up as much as we can, because why would I make it even, I mean, I am competitive with myself, but I'm not insane most of the time, okay? So, I do, like, double up. So there are some that, you know, a cozy mystery and historical fiction can be the same book. And so I double them up that way. And I do follow Book Riot's Read Harder Challenge, and I use their Google reading tracker that they come out with a Google sheet. And it, like, somebody who really loves Google Sheets or Excel plugs it all in for you and shows you all your stats and everything. And I could never, but good for them. I also follow this account on Tumblr called Macrolit that I like their content, so I, wrote down their reading challenge as well. And then down here is just like books I want to read this year. Have I read Little Women? Yes, but it was like a very condensed, abridged version for little kids, so not really. I've seen the movie, but a long time ago, and I want to read it, appreciate it for what it is, all that jazz. So we've got a lot to work on, and that's just like, I wanted to fill out this list. I could go on with books I want to read this year, but again, just because I want to read them doesn't mean welcome to my therapy session. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry if you're like, this woman is so chaotic. I am. Yes, I am. Very much so. So I printed out the same Peanuts Planner Co. list. I think these are from Peanuts Planner Co. I printed the same list out and just like duplicated the numbers so I would know, okay, number 6 was color in the title. Well, black is a color. Woo! Number 8, historical fiction. The Earth Dragon Awakes by Lawrence Yep. It's about like one of the San Francisco earthquakes in like the 1800s. I found this fan art on Pinterest, and when I tell you, I think this is a really beautiful rendering of Cardin, because you can kind of see his smirk, but it's in the shadow. And it's one more thing I love about Holly Black is she made this character who is so, I mean, on the surface, very unlikable, very just insidious. And looking at that, you would say, yeah, I can see that. But then she has a tail onto this dude. And how can you take anybody seriously with a tail who has a mind of its own? Like, he's minding his business, his tail's minding his tail's business, and they are not always on the same page. It's hilarious. So that's why I like Holly Black, and this depiction of it, of like bordering it's like it borders the line of silly goose, but also a silly goose with a knife who could mess you up. So I don't know. I think it's great. And then here I just was brain dumping about how I want to change the organization for my books if I ever get to a point where I can organize them the way I want them, because I have so many I need to read that I don't want to organize them till I'm done, I've read them. That makes no sense. Again, I'm not here to make sense. I'm here to talk about books, okay? All right. These are the books that I own by Agatha Christie, and I've read 3 of them. We're moving on. Okay. These are the books of series that I want to read, and I want to know what order to read them in. So that is why I have them here. And some of these series, like I've read this series before, but I was a kid, and I couldn't tell you. I just know Little House on the Prairie, or no. It's either On the Banks of Plum Creek or By the Shores of Silver Lake. I can't remember. She lives in a house underground, because they're like, my mind was blown when I read that as a kid. I was like, you can live in the ground? Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, more series that I have that I want to read all the way through. Like I've started it, haven't finished it. We've already talked about that. We're moving on. Okay, and then series I want to read, more series I want to read, more series I want to read. Bible in 60 days, because I think I can sometimes. The audacity on me. I don't understand. And then I have a doctor note that I copied from my Bible because it was just really interesting to me. So I wrote it down. And then this is a Skillshare class with Daniel Jose Older, who's a really great author. You should check out his stuff. But I just wanted to see what he would have to say about storytelling. I have Johnny here, and then I have my movies and shows and podcasts, because like they're both content that I would like to consume eventually, if that makes sense. So I think they fit in the right, or they fit, it feels like they fit in the back of the books area. So that is like a very windy rundown of how winded? What am I trying to say? Wow. Winded? Is that the word you would use for that? Anyways, that's a very long-winded, that's what I was trying to say. Long-winded explanation of how I play in this section of my planner, and have fun with it. So, how does that translate to my reading journal? My reading journal is, it's like less tracking. Like, I feel like that's heavy tracking over there. This is like, we're going on vibes alone. And honestly, I don't think I had any foresight of like divide this by years, and I think you'll see that when you kind of get into the front of it, and it's like very mishmash, because I planned it out like it was going to be a reading journal for 2023, and then I got to 2024 and I'm still in this thing, and I was like, oh, but I don't want to start like another, I just want to keep it going. But I have, and so if I end up in this thing in 2025, I'm going to have to like start over for the year because I have no more room, if that makes sense. Because there's 384 pages in this Cafe Note by Nanami paper. And I'm trying, but she's winning. I don't know what to tell you. So I like the portability of this size. I love how cozy and cute it is. Like A6, I can hold it and I can see why people get into like the pocket rings phenomenon and all that jazz, but I couldn't ever. I need something bigger than this for like everyday planning. But you know, just putting down some quotes, and a lot of what I do in this journal is just transcribing quotes. Like, that's the backbone of this journal. But it has other elements to fill it out and give it the meat and bones of you. Meat and bones? I said that was a backbone, so the meat and muscles. This is... You get what I'm saying. So I just wrote out reading journal. These stickers I got from a pack on Amazon or Etsy, one of the two. But you can find many stickers like that. And I just have this quote that looks very awkward because I didn't do the L right. So it looks like enlarge. But it's supposed to say enlarge. So there are many little ways to enlarge your world. Love of books is the best of all by Jacqueline Kennedy. So that's kind of how I started. And then I have like all of the books I read in 2023 in here and their corresponding page numbers if I talk about them in this journal. And then we go into 2024, and I actually put down this box sticker from Paper Bits Co. and Planner Monkey Co. collab here last night because I was like, we're getting past the point where I would use this sticker and it's specific to 2024, so I need to figure out a place to put it, and that seemed right. Okay. And then 2024, these are books that I have read so far or am trying to read. I am very behind. As far as like reading goals, I like to challenge myself, but at the same time, I will cheat. I will cheat 100%. I am not the one to be reading. So my goal is 150 books this year, but if that means I read 20 picture books, we're going to count it. And I've talked about that on the channel before as well, like what we consider to be a book versus something for someone else, like a picture book or a graphic novel or a comic, something like that. Like, those are all books, but, you know, we have, and by we, I mean, like, society has, like, internalized what is fit and what is unfit for the middle brow, higher brow, lower brow formats. And I think it's capitalism. I really do. Trying to get our money. Yeah, so I shall not be moved. So I have all of these in here. And then this is like, I created all these pages in 2023 and I left a lot of space because it was like, I don't know what I would need these for, but maybe I'll need them. And hey, guess what? I needed them. So I have a bunch of blank pages here just in case. And then I was like, okay, well, let me get something together for 2024. If I'm going to like keep this rolling, let me do something. This was a joke. I broke it in 5 days. Granted, I only spent like $11, but I don't know what I was thinking here. So that's why these stickers are here, because again, I think I talked about this in a video on my channel. I think it's the Hobonichi plan with me for this week that this video is coming out. So maybe on Thursday, maybe. I was talking about how like when I restrict myself on something, I get worse about going deeper into it. So, for example, if I were to put myself on a no buy for stickers, I would probably go on a sticker buying spree. There's some kind of little rebellious little elf in my head who really likes to try to play me, and I'm not the one. So, that was cute. That was a little fun thing, but I'm not going to be doing that. But I am doing the book of the month thing over here too, like I do in my home. But I'm not going to add in any explanations in this particular book because I will have probably written about them. And I have not written about that one yet. So I'm quite behind on the books I want to journal about in here because I'm trying for the life of me to commonplace this book so I can turn it back in because it's not mine. So that's what I'm trying to do in my spare time, but these are the books that I plan on journaling, and maybe in the next video, why did that sound crazy? Maybe in the next, like, reading subject video, I will just put on some, video of me journaling about them and me telling you about them. So that could be a thing, but for now, I'm just really behind because this is kind of like on the tier of importance. This one always kind of is the redheaded stepchild, and I hate to say that, but it's just the way of the world, I guess. So these are books read that I want to buy. I don't even know why I made this page because I'll be wanting to buy everything. I don't understand. I made this last night, A to Z challenge. I always thought that was cool. I'm not quite for reading around the world because I feel like I would want to get every single country possible. And that would probably lead to me spending some more money because I don't think a library would have a book from like every single country in its collection because it's not realistic. Knowing what I know about libraries, it's just probably not going to happen. So I figured A to Z would be a better place to start than like read around the world or something like that. And I'm already doing great, you know? Look at me go. To be read, what is she doing? I don't know. Delusional. Have I touched half of these? No, because like these I added on after I read other books in 2023. So it's like a to be read list, but it's a to be read list of books from books that I've read. What? I don't know. If I were to sit down and make an actual to be read list, it would probably be its own book. So, yeah. This was the book bracket that I messed up on in 2023 and I gave up on because I don't like narrowing down the books to one thing and I can't choose. You can't choose. So, I didn't. Because this is my journal. These are my rules. I have a Pango Books account that never gets touched. So there's that. And then I did subscribe to an email thing called the Unread Shelf Project. And it was this lady who was like challenging you to read the books you own. What a concept. But then she like bowed out of it and somebody else bought it or something. I don't know what's going on with that. So I'm just like not paying attention, but this is what it was when I was paying attention. So and then like it asked you what your top TBR was, what your monthly themes were, or like gave you monthly themes, excuse me, and then I was tracking what fit into those themes that I read, and then you could choose your own. And then like I just was like, why? So, and then year-long challenges were also a part of this, but they're very vague. I say that. They're really specific too. But it's just, And then monthly unread shelf, I actually added this in for 2024 because I think it would be cool to track again, like, how many books am I reading that I own? Not a lot. I mean, June through October, I was doing better. But February this year, I just didn't even read any books that I own. I read all library books. But we're not even counting February because February sucked. February was the illness month. So, and then down here, I just have like notes on. So I transcribed these from my A5 planner that I was using. My A5 rings that I was using. I was using it at the beginning of 2023 and I gave it away. But before I gave it away, I was like, okay, this size isn't working for me as like a on-the-go carry planner. So maybe I can use it for like a book planner. And so I was just writing quick notes of my impression of the books on the days that I finished them, and then I just copied everything into this book because I started this specific book in 2023. So I kind of went back in and did a little bit of like back journaling, and then right around here is when I started. So February 5th is when I started using this book specifically to reflect about my reading and the books that I've reading. And here is, like, this was me just being like, it doesn't have to be cute, just write about it. But as you get further in here, I do get cuter again. Like, I do like me a good sticker. I like me a good aesthetic spread. So I do be playing with that. But like for here, I mean, I could, but it feels weird to make aesthetically pleasing spreads about my life solving America's cold cases. Like, I could just put the information down. So really it looks like this more so when I'm writing about a nonfiction book, but also I use my commonplace book for more nonfiction information now. Anyways, like I said, I'm not here to make sense. I'm here to talk books. So these are all of that and all the information about, all the information I found in these books that was interesting to me. And so we have that. And I was dating the entries, but I don't really see the point of that. So I kind of stopped doing that too. And then we go into this book, which I accidentally suggested as a book club book. And that's an interesting book club book. Because, so for book clubs, your natural inclination is to be like, I want to pick a book that everybody likes, and that's not actually what you want to do because it doesn't provide great conversation. You want a book that divides people, and this was a book that divided people, I'll tell you what. Woo! I actually suggested it because I was just talking to my friend about, like, yeah, there are a couple books I can only count on one hand like how many books that I've never finished, and this was one of them because I started it on audio and I didn't like the narrator's voice, so I like had to stop listening and I never picked it back up. So yeah, this was a intro on that. What is the word? Oh my gosh, an entry on that. Didn't last long, as you could tell. And then I did an entry on the selected short stories of Eudora Welty because I do try to be more cognizant of Mississippi writers. Mississippi's very proud of its writers, and I feel kind of like I should know a little bit about them. A few of the writers that Mississippi is very proud of happen to be Tennessee Williams. Faulkner was born in Mississippi. There is Eudora Welty. Donna Tartt is from Mississippi. Like, if a writer is from Mississippi, you will know about it if you live in Mississippi. So, like, I try to read some of this, the older writers who have passed on now, like, that I haven't really read. Like, Angie Thomas, I can tell you about her, but I can't really tell you about Eudora Welty. I can tell you a little bit about Tennessee Williams. I can just like a lot, but not as much. So just trying to, learn the culture of this state because I'm not from here. And then I read Murder on the Orient Express and my little sad trains up here. I don't know. There's a lot going on in this book, so I feel like I had to write down all the characters, which it did give you a character list. I literally just transcribed the character list. It's not like I was doing extra work, but there was so much French in here that I had to figure it out. So, then I loved this little book, but I didn't have a lot to say about it. I just really liked the cozy feeling of it. So I put in the artwork. And that's what I did. And I just the one-liners of this book. It's a small read, so it was a great children's book. It's a small children's chapter book, and 10 out of 10 would recommend if you have a little one in your life who's getting into chapter books. This is one to pick up for sure. We're All the Same in the Dark. There are spoilers here, so sorry if you wanted to read this. Don't look. Don't look. Same here. There's a spoiler here for A Flicker in the Dark, so don't look. Don't look. And then I have quotes from that, and then this is another book that I was reading that was giving a lot of good information. It's called But You Don't Look Autistic at All by Bianca Topes, and she is actually outside of the United States. So it was interesting to me to get a point of view of somebody not from the United States on how autistic people are treated in other parts of the world. Queen of the Sea, this is a graphic novel that I want on my shelves. I like that. This book was a surprise. I really, really loved this book. It's an older book. It was published in the 70s. And one of my favorite authors, I got to meet her and talk to her. Her name's Linda Williams Jackson. She writes children's books, and she wrote The Lucky Ones, which is really good. And she attended a library conference I went to and talked about how this was the book that got her into reading, because the characters looked like her and had the same kinds of life or like lived experiences as her. And so I was like, well, yeah, I gotta read that. And it was really good, like really good. You can tell which ones I really, really like or found a lot to get from by how much I write about them. So, for example, this is a phenomenal it's like not a graphic novel. It's like a fictionalized memoir. I don't know how that can be, but it is. And this author, Daniel Nayeri, whoa, like, yeah, I'm just going to let it speak for itself because all of these are... Okay, I apologize. I had a phone call that I had to take. So for this entry specifically, I was making it as I was reading it, and that's why it's so small, because to be honest, it felt like the plot was just really sped up for a concept that needed a lot longer to be explored. So it felt like one moment there was the build up and it skipped over rising action of your little plot, like your little plot thing that they teach you in grade school of like, I don't know how to, intro, rising action, climax, falling action, all that jazz. It just went straight from intro to climax. I was like, what? But I got to use my Vermont sticker, which I never thought I would. So there's that. This one was Catcher in the Rye. I talked about this in a previous video about how I just always avoided this book, but turns out it was, the way it was billed to me was a very large, it wasn't correct, is what I'll say. So, this one was for another book club read called Dispatches from Pluto, and I liked the general writing of it. The concept was a little annoying. So, but it had some good quotes, so I put those in there. And then this is like, I keep these together because these are pages about mental health that, oh, I just smudged the ink with my hand. Sorry, oh my gosh. So, I just washed my hands and got the ink smudged. Yikes. Okay. But yeah, these pages are from mental health reads that I've been doing to kind of learn more about things and the stuff. So there we go. This one was so phenomenal, and you can tell whether I like something based on how much I write down things. And for a minute there, I was just transcribing quotes, like that's all I was doing. But the more I sit with a book and I let it kind of filter through my brain, and like I give myself a few days and then I journal about it, the more I have to say about it. Whereas for this, I was either in this stage, I was either doing it as I was reading it, or I was doing it right after I read it. So Yeah. Whereas this one, If You Leave Me by Crystal Hannah Kim, I had so many big feelings about this. I had to like sit with it and really organize my thoughts before I could write about it. And then when I wrote about it, this is like just me writing about my thoughts. Like that is a ton for what I had been doing previously. So these are where the quotations start. And then, yeah, so this was a devastating read, but so freaking good. Like, it hurt so good. So, then this is Cat's Eye. So here I'm starting to add in, like, the book covers itself instead of writing the title. And this one was another one where I put the facts and things first, and I wrote out some quotes that I knew I wanted to remember. And then I gave myself time to think about it a little bit. So the way I'm approaching journaling is changing with every book because I'm trying to figure out what works best for me. Because I want it to be more than just quote transcription. Especially for books I already own. Like, if I want to see that quote, I can just go to the book. But I do think there is something valuable about repeating the quote into a different book and just sitting with that. So for this, I wrote down all the quotes first, and then I went back and just kind of thought about it some more. And this is my reflection on that book. Like, this is the meat and bones. This is what I'm talking about when I get dorky, is like, I break down how I feel about a character and what I think that they brought to the narrative, anything like that. So I'm getting more comfortable doing this, but I mean, that's a muscle that I haven't used in like almost 10 years. So it's taking a while to like get back into that thought process of like, how does the character development impact the plot? What does it say about the themes? Things like that. Like, I haven't thought that way since I was being graded for that. So it's really cool and really like cathartic, but it's just taking a minute to shift into that mode essentially. This one is the only one left. The writing here was really atmospheric, and I liked the descriptions, so I found pictures that made me think about what the writer was writing about essentially, and I tore them out and wrote about them. And then I was just like, the plot twists on this one are insane. So I was writing about that. These two, I was writing about how I felt about reading them as opposed to like what they were about. And same here. This is just like micro journaling essentially of the books, because some of them that to me, like, it was a great read, but I didn't feel the need to go deeper. Like, for example, Alatsue, there was a lot that could have gone deeper with that one. Like, I could have gone a full dive, but I kind of just felt like it. There are books where I really want to get into it, and then there are books where I'm like, I'm satisfied with not delving into it. Because, like, there are some books I feel like if you analyze them to death, it kind of kills it. And this is one of those for me. Like, I liked the mystical writing style of it and the oral tradition that wove throughout this story, because it's about an indigenous teenager. So, like, I don't know. I like leaving my impression of it the way it was after I read it. Whereas if I critique it, or if I critique a book after the fact, I have more thoughts than just my initial, okay, that was, that kind of thing. Does that make any sense? Like, I don't know I hope I'm making sense, but essentially analyzing the book kind of unfolds it deeper when I want to get more out of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean by not analyzing it deeper, I didn't enjoy it just as much, I guess. So, Dracula, man, I had never read this book, and so I was like, girl, I gotta read me some Dracula. Yeah, it's very, very anti-feminist, very, very anti-feminist. We're very scared of sex in this book, okay? So it would be interesting to, like, do a back-to-back of, like, Carmilla and Dracula to see like how differently they swing, but I've never read Carmilla, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I found some fan art that was pretty funny. It was cracking me up. So this is a lot of just quote transcription as well, because the literary criticism at the beginning of this book did a lot of the thought for me, so I didn't feel like I had much to add. And you know, sometimes I think there's benefits and drawbacks to reading the introductory material in books, because going into a book like Dracula, I feel like it benefited me, because I was like, okay, so this is what the author's doing here, and this is how it's being perceived by the media of the time and, you know, critics afterwards. Whereas like more contemporary books with introductions, I try not to read them because I want to read them as they came out. Does that make sense? Whereas like Dracula is it's pretty far removed and not at the same time. Like the subject matter is still really relevant, but like the writing is far removed from what we encounter today. So reading that extra criticism kind of took away any criticism I would have had, and I just would have been building on somebody else's, and I just like the quotes. So this one I had to like go back in and add the title because I was so into this book. This is honestly one of my favorite books of 2023, like top 3, I would have to say. And I think that's part of the reason, like that's not a singular reason, but it is part of a reason as to why I think I'm not having a great start to 2024, is I read so many great books at the end of 2023 that like I can't keep the momentum for some reason. But Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin is amazing. I loved it 100%. It was like a love letter to 90s kids. I just, yes. So here's where I'm writing my thoughts about that. And then The Book Eaters was the first book I finished in 2024. And I did have this in a video as well. Next, I was doing The Secret History. So this is another book that I sat with for a while before I journaled about it. And I just finished up the quotes last night because the quotes aren't going anywhere. They're not going to change, so that's okay. But I needed to sit with this one because I didn't understand, and I'm not sure that I still do, or that I do now, but I liked this book, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, but the cult following is something I'm not quite understanding yet. And that's not to say that it's not a great book, but I'm just like, okay, I don't know. So there was a lot I had to think about, and like the metaphors behind the like the Greek, the allusions to Greek culture and things like that, and like I was just writing it all out and kind of feeling very, like the guy from Community with all the red threads and him just being like, yeah, that's kind of how I felt journaling about this. So we moved on to quotes, and I finished that, and that is where we are caught up to. Granted, I still have like this many books to journal about, so hopefully the next time you'll see this book, you will see some of these more spread out and talked about, because I just find that like some of these I may have read that, like I may be too far out now to like really dive deep, but I find that like giving myself some distance before journaling about a book is usually the best way for me at this point to figure out what I really felt about it. So that is how I journal about the books I read that I feel like are worth a second look and some rumination over. So this is going to be the next book that I add in, and I have the book here just for what little quotes I did pick up from this one. Not many, but I mean, I feel like Tennessee Williams, the whole play is a quote, you know what I'm saying? So I love Tennessee Williams. I adore him. And I find it really ironic, like the town that I live in Mississippi is his home, like is the town of his childhood home, and I'm not from this town, so it's just a little ironic to me that like the town is really proud of the fact that Tennessee Williams grew up in a childhood home in this town. And I can guarantee, I would put a good amount of money that Tennessee Williams hated it. Like, hated living there. So it's just ironic to me, and I think it's funny. But I love Tennessee Williams. I think he is one of the few male authors who can, I don't know, deliver a really well-rounded, powerful, kick-ass female character in a way that no one else ever has done after him and hasn't done since him, and just, oh, anyways, that's for another video. Thank you so much for spending some time with me if you made it this far. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed. I do mainly do some planner content, but we got some extra stuff coming. And I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up to help my channel grow, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!